Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our very special Ask Me Anything with three of our amazing designers for the Cyrcle Phones Enclosure Contest. Teresa Micheletti, Marketing and Social Media Manager, and I wanted to dive right in so we can get started and make sure there's plenty of time for questions and us to delve into all the details of these awesome designs. But first, I want to introduce our CEO, Christina Sear, who, of course, spearheads all of this. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Teresa. Hey, thanks so much for running this today. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy that all the designers are here. It's really exciting. I'm kind of bubbly right now.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to dive right in. First up, we have another lady. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Renee.
And here we have...
Hello, I'm Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Welcome. And lastly...
Hello, everybody. I'm Wesley.
So I just have a real quick question, kind of get us all started. For the three of you, what made you decide to put something in? What was it that kind of sparked your interest? And I guess we'll just go ladies first, and kind of down the screen. No particular order. That's just how we all popped up.
So for me, I just love entering design competitions because I get to learn how to do different things because I have no formal qualifications. I just kind of learn as I go. So I like entering design competitions to push what I can do whilst following a brief, and then also seeing what other people have done with the same idea and seeing yeah.
I love it. Wes, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm usually on social media and just checking out all the creative things that are happening. And then sure enough, I saw your guys' competition to design an enclosure for a mobile phone. And earlier in my career, I'd say more than 10 years ago, I was in the mobile phone industry, designing mobile phones for one of the leading mobile phone companies out there. So I said, sure, why not? Let me see if I still have it, see if I still have the touch. And then being a former mobile phone designer, it's like you're always designing a rectangular screen with a rectangular enclosure. And there have been some circular phones, but they actually have a square screen. But then you guys, I meant Christina and her team, they have found a module that has a true circular phone, and I thought that was very unique. I know that there are some smartwatches out there with a true circular, but this one is actually for the mobile phone. So I thought that was exciting, and that's something I've never experienced before. So I definitely wanted to see what I could do with it.
Yeah, I love it. And then Patrick, go ahead.
All right. I guess for me, this is the first competition I've actually entered for designing something. I've always been interested, in designing my own things. I've tried messing around with Fusion. That's what I tend to use. And I saw this, why not? I'll give it a go. And it was a good experience for me because when I saw this, I was I can learn a bit from doing this. I had to find some videos online to explain, trying to get tips on using the program. And I thought maybe this would be a good start into just sort of learning how to design. And so I gave it a go.
Amazing. And I forgot to introduce them or ask where you all are from and living right now, because that was something for me that was thrilling when we started seeing submissions from around the world. And also the States, which is good, but that was something I was anticipating was state submissions, but it was thrilling to see, a wider reach. So Renee, remind us where you are at right now.
I'm in Sydney, Australia.
I love it. And Wes?
Arizona, USA.
Patrick?
I'm also in Sydney, Australia.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we were thrilled that everyone could join us despite time differences. So I figure we might as well dive in. Renee, do you want to go? I'll have you go first, and I'll pull up your design. No need to be nervous. Let's see. Everybody who's watching, give me just a moment to do a little screen transferring. So we will jump into right here. Oops, there we go. And pull everyone else out so Renee can be good and seen. Oop. Maybe. There we are. Okay, sorry for the delay, everybody.
So basically my design is to have something customizable, because I'm all about not printing things for waste. So to print something that, like the Cyrcle back, which I have a print here, but it's terrible quality, so I didn't put photos of it. So the print, yeah, to have things that aren't, you don't have to print like the whole case again just to be able to swap out the disc. So you just like twist it on, and it's on. And you can have all sorts of different ones.
So that was the neat thing when we saw Renee's submission come in, is that this was the first image and it was very exciting. And then as we flip through, just like she just explained, the whole idea is you change out the back. So the primary structure stays the same, but then with the switchable discs, anybody can customize it however they like. And the potential is, almost endless right there. So where did you get kind of that first idea? Also, I love that this one currently up, in her description, you said it's for essentially like a fidget spinner concept, something that people can just mess around with to help keep them focused in other parts of their life. Where did the disc kind of idea come from, or was it just kind of an epiphany for you that just naturally was like immediate or anything like that?
Well, originally it was for fidgets because like I'm always fidgeting with things. And so I was going to have different fidgets. I just kind of ran out of time because I'm working on a Kickstarter, but yeah, and I wanted to learn how to use like the screws in Fusion 360 and like the thread tools. So I was like, that I'll give it a go, and it's a circle, so it just works. So
neat.
That was sort of where it came from.
Love it. Okay, so everybody who's watching, if at any point you have questions about any of the designs or just a general drafting question, since we've got the designers here, go ahead and pop them in the comments, and we'll bring those forward as we can. So I'm gonna pull up, is there anything else you wanted to share, or we can loop back if there's any other, like, oh, I forgot. That's perfectly fine.
Not really. Other than that, I pretty much left the original casing the same because like I'm not a phone designer, so I'm still learning my way around Fusion 360, so I just, left it.
Yeah, and I love that you took a stab, even though you're not a phone designer, and that's perfectly fine and wonderful. I was excited, and always am when some people try new things. So that's good. Okay, I'm gonna pull up Patrick. Hi.
Hello.
Let me switch real quick to your design, and then you can just let us all know. Oops. Pardon clicking through. There we are. Okay. Ooh. Apologies, everyone. Slight technical difficulty. My computer wants to just pull up everything, and that's not what we are going for. All right, here we are. There's that. Okay, almost ready to rumble here. All right, there we are. So here is the shell phone.
So yeah, I designed the shell phone is what I called it. Pretty much when designing this, I was like, how can I make something like fun, something different that not really would be thought about, but also to have a practical idea behind my design. So
Mhm.
when like designing this one, I was going through sketches and just sketching up different shapes. And originally I was looking at the idea of like the golden ratio, but
Mhm.
that the dimensions and sizing of that weren't quite effective for the shape of what we were working around. I ended up following along the idea of having a shell though, which is where I came up, like sort of got to the shell. And key features I was sort of trying to put into to make it not just the shell design was sort of integrating a built-in kickstand, which is what I have here, and a pop-out hand holder. So, because I will admit I've dropped my phone on my face a few times when lying in bed, and it's
Well,
not pleasant. So this is sort of just the way to sort of maximize your like grip on the phone in a way to prevent it falling. Yeah.
amazing. So for you, I mean, this is maybe just a silly question. In Australia, is there like a specific shell that kind of triggered your mind, or just kind of the general concept of that natural shape?
It was more the general concept, to be honest, like because it did start as an idea of the Nautilus shell, but because the sizing of that doesn't really exactly work out, I just thought maybe having the spiral to give it like the shell design would be sort of the way
Mhm.
to like go for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, so things that, I've heard people are enjoying the kickstand and the pop out is I think it's neat that that is a provided feature instead of people having to go buy their own and whatnot. So we were excited, to see that take on it. Um, yeah. Let's see. And how long have you been drafting or whatnot? Because you said you were learning more about Fusion.
Um, it's like in terms of this design, like in sort of working on this, it was just I don't know. It was just sort of I do that every now and then in sort of spare time. It's not something I really put directly like dedicated towards. It's more
Right.
okay now. I sort of spend some time on it, and so I don't know. Just like it's just been over every now and then. I just sort of do
Mhm.
some. Yeah.
Absolutely. Nice, nice. Awesome. Well, I figure we'll pull in Wesley. All right. Here we are. All right, and do our little switcheroo to this. Wes, how are you doing today? While I
Good,
move this
good.
all
How are
around.
you?
I'm doing well. As we've said, we're excited everybody is here and whatnot. Um, Here we are. All right. So this is the Pearl. Tell us all about it, and just let me know as you want me to page through the images.
Yeah, so the idea of the Pearl Circle phone came really quickly to me. As soon as I know that the Detour team provided the modules or the components, which is really helpful when the designer wants to develop a concept really deep. And I noticed that the components prevented it from being the enclosure to be circular. I mean, I could have simply offsetted the circle to be a larger circle around the circular display, but it would have been very difficult to hold the phone because it would have been a very large circle. So I asked myself, how can I keep its purity, the pure circular display, as pure as possible? And I thought that the most simple shape that could be close to the circle is an oval. And then I quickly just stretched the oval shape to the point where it just was able to um, meet the internal components without any interference. Another thing too is I know that there's I think Christina and the Detour team highlighted its unique dual head jack feature on its left and right side, and that's why the initial prototype or an earlier prototype had a flat bottom, so you could lay it on the table so two people can enjoy watching their video or whatever. So that was something that was a challenge on this one. So what I did was without disturbing the front oval shape, I
Mhm.
created a slight cut on the back side, so it would provide just enough flat surface where you could lay it on the table, but it would require you to lay it behind, or you would have to lean against like your cup or a wall or something. And that's a habit that I find myself doing a lot, is when I want to watch a YouTube video on my phone while I'm eating, I grab something that has some weight and quickly just I lean my phone towards that thing, and that's kind of a behavior that I found myself doing a lot, and I thought I could um, simulate that similar kind of feature for the Pearl phone, Circle phone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna thumb through the pictures, and if there's anything extra you kind of want to toss in, comfortable hand holding.
Yeah, this was an interesting image. I just grabbed something on the internet, and I realized that the Circle phone, when I after I did the enclosure design, I realized it was roughly around. It was pretty much the same size as a CD. So I found an image of a person holding a CD, and
Nice.
I kind of just superimposed it. Yeah,
Slick.
and I know that I saw a lot of earlier prototypes of the Circle phone in really nice, vibrant colors. So yeah, the earlier image kind of just showcased what the Circle phone or the Pearl phone would look like in multiple colors.
Mhm.
Again, this is the design engineering in me getting really technical here, just kind of calling out all the specifications just in case the Detour team was curious what are the features that this phone has. Um, Again, it's a lot of very curvaceous, trying to avoid the rectangular or straight lines. And the backside is actually domed and very curved. But if you set it on the table, it's going to wobble. So that's one thing I wanted to do, is avoid the wobble issue. So I created a flat surface or a circular surface on the back, and I thought that was a good place to put like some customization, like a sticker, or even a sticker of the Circle, the Detour logo, or the Circle phone logo. Or
Mhm.
I know that Patrick, he mentioned he had like a pull out feature on his shell phone. I know
Yes.
that a lot of people in the US use the pop sockets. So I thought I actually measured the pop socket's diameter, and then made sure that the circle on the backside was flat, or enough space to put a pop socket. So it's just an extra feature, so it doesn't pop out of your hand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This one was fun, and I know that you have so much background in design, and you used to do specifically cell phone designing, which was neat to see, where what all you could bring, and make, just because with that extra experience, which is neat. And like I was saying with Renee, it's been neat to have such a wide variety of designers. So this one was
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really good to see other people like Renee and Patrick get in on this contest. And I tried to learn Fusion 360, and I gave up.
Oh, what did
Because I
you
use SolidWorks, which is one of the industry standard 3D modeling programs. But I know that there's a big trend and shift towards Fusion 360, because it's very cost competitive, and it's free to students, or free for many people. So I tried to learn that myself, but
do?
it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So I give big props to Renee and Patrick for taking on Fusion, and jumping on this competition, and really see what they could do with but that's the best way to learn a program, is just doing self-initiated projects. And a competition is just that, is it's your own personal project, and it
Mhm.
forces you to learn features in the program.
Of course. Yeah. Awesome. I'm gonna pull everybody back up, and just it's been neat. We're having, a little side private convo, and just fun to hear other people's ideas and insights and thoughts on on each other's phones. So yeah. So since Patrick and Renee and you are the two that use Fusion, like we were just discussing, is there kind of a feature about Fusion or a reason that you like it, use it, for the folks at home, curiosity's sake?
I use it because I can get it for free, and SolidWorks is expensive, and I don't have a reason to spend that much money on a program for just hobby, like what I do.
Of course.
Very similar with me as well. It's like it's a free program, like, and having like using my student access to it, I can get it for free as well. And I find it's quite user friendly in a way. Like I find it's very easy to sort of follow on, and like beginning into it is quite good. There's so much potential. There's so much potential to it as well, which is like the more and more I research into it, there's so many features that I'm still not trying to learn and like still trying to get my head around. But overall, like there's also a lot of like help online about it as well. Like there's a lot of people people giving tutorials and how to use it. So it's quite a good program I find to just for learning as well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I started using it because Eagle, the EDA program that I use to design the boards, combined with Autodesk Fusion 360. And their integration, especially 18 months ago, just kind of blew my mind. So, up until that time when I would develop the printed circuit boards and I would show it to the rest of my team or our advisors, they would be like, I don't even know where the headphone jack is. It wasn't very visually friendly to show people just, all the work that you put into the printed circuit board design. But I spent the extra effort, and it takes like a third longer to upload all of the step files for every single component. We have 356 components.
Wow.
Some of those are duplicated, but it was still a lot of time spent. And we were also waiting for our radio module. We had a 2-year delay there. So I had time. So I was just putting together all the step files, but it really paid off. For example, in this contest, you could download the whole view of the internals. I did remove some proprietary parts for the contest, but you had everything that you needed to work around for all of the connectors and everything. So, and buttons. So, otherwise, SolidWorks to me is like the industry standard. If you get really serious about 3D modeling, a lot of the designers that we've worked with that are using SolidWorks seem to have, and I don't know if this is the designers or if it's SolidWorks, but their work, when you see it, it just has a little bit more polish, and I don't know what that is. So, Wes, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I do a lot of Instagram, and I've seen a lot of people who actually have jumped on board Fusion 360, and they could be at that level.
Okay,
and that's why I actually tried to pitch Fusion 360 to my team at the company, because it's a huge cost saving to the company.
Right.
But we're just so busy here, we didn't really have time to take that extra time to learn a new program. So we unfortunately abandoned it, but at least we gave it a try.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that's why, again, I just give props to Patrick and Renee who are just keeping it up, and that's the way to go. Yeah. If I was able to start fresh, I would definitely use Fusion 360 over SolidWorks, only because of the cost. That's a big differentiator.
Yes. How much does so I haven't looked this year. How much does SolidWorks typically cost?
I think it's around $5,000 US. And then there's also a annual maintenance fee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For that, it was prohibitive for us too, because our startup's on a shoestring, and this is, our second smartphone, but we still haven't made the big time yet. And so it's just really hard to afford those really costly tools. Hence why I'm using Eagle instead of Altium and Fusion 360 instead of SolidWorks. But that being said, for example, I sent out a Twitter poll last week, I think, and asking designers what software they used, and 46% or 48% used Fusion 360. Of course, I sent it to all, my groups of people, so like, I'm sure I'm heavily influenced by, the people that I follow and the people that follow me. But a solid 25% used SolidWorks, and then another 25% used an open source tool. And so that was really interesting to see. Have any of you tried any of the open source modeling, 3D modeling pieces of software that are out there now? Like Blender or?
I personally haven't tried any yet. I've seen a lot of people using Blender, and to me it seems fascinating, and I would like to give it a go, but currently I just haven't had a look at it yet.
Yeah, Blender is one of those popular ones, and people are highlighting how easy it is. But Blender is more freeform. If you're dealing with like electronics or engineering parts that require tolerance, I think that's why a lot of people are using Fusion 360 because it's parametrics.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't think Rhino's open source, but Blender and like those organic or freeform programs, I think you're just eyeballing it, or maybe, and then you won't be able to modify or update the file if you wanted to later down the road because it's not parametrics.
It's true. And I'm sorry, I haven't touched Rhino since like 2016, but I feel like people who were using Rhino were also using Keyshot to kind of polish up the images to display them. But was that a misconception on my part, or?
I think all the programs can export certain files into Keyshot, but SolidWorks, I believe there's a plugin, a rendering program plugin, but I've also seen people using a rendering plugin for Fusion 360.
Yes.
So is it free?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yeah. So that's great because I've seen some really nice 3D renderings coming out of Fusion 360.
It's amazing, and yeah, and I don't know how long ago you tried Fusion 360, but I know that, and it was probably around when you tried it as well. They have a package for people who convert from SolidWorks to Fusion 360 so that it changes all of the commands to what you're used to.
Oh, really?
So you don't have to like relearn, like, because I know some of the things are backwards actually in Fusion 360, and that can get really tiresome, like when you're trying to zoom in and it's the opposite command. And
the salesperson didn't mention that package. That would have been really helpful.
Yeah, I don't know.
They just lost a few customers because they didn't mention that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they added it like 18 months ago, but it may have been in there longer. I just became aware of it 18 months ago. So yeah, that was cool. But I wanted to go back, Patrick, and ask you more about the golden ratio, because when I first got into that, I was into, like, I studied crop circles. I studied so many geometric designs, and definitely the golden ratio was one of those, and, trying to see how it might fit into our products. We're really excited about making the Cyrcle phone, but we have aspirations to, of course, make the hexagon phone, the octagon phone. We even have the capability of making the heart-shaped phone and the star-shaped phone. There are displays out now that are in the shape of a heart and in the shape of a star, like a bubbly star, not like a sharp angled star. And those shapes fit really well in the hand. So there's a new market for cell phone users And both of you from Australia, you can check me on this. So we quote this research that, for example, 2 to 3 years ago, you wouldn't give a smartphone to a child that was younger than 12. But that age has dropped in places like Australia, we quote, to the age of 6
Oh, wow.
for a lot of kids. And when kids are looking for their first smartphone, they don't know what's inside of it necessarily, although the age of a kid getting their first tablet has also dropped, sometimes to the age of 3. So for toddlers who are watching their cartoons and things like that, they have their own drop friendly like tablet, with a protective shell on it, case and things like that. So, but usually when kids are getting their first smartphone, they're less interested in what's inside of it, and they're more interested in the shape that's on the outside. And they don't have this preconceived notion that it has to be rectangular. And so because of that, we can explore lots of different shapes, and we're very excited to do that. But anyways, I'm droning on. But Patrick, I wanted to ask you, so what made you think of the golden ratio?
Well, I guess I find a lot of designing comes from sort of looking at nature in a way, and because most of it, you can sort of take a lot of inspiration from the natural world around us. And I have sort of seen things and read things about apparently the golden ratio, things that follow closer to that are more appealing to the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And when designing, I was like, what's a sort of like nice sort of curving design that would be appealing? And I was like, well, we got the golden ratio, so that's one of probably more well known as well. So I was like, if I can try and explore that and see if that can go anywhere, that was something I was definitely looking into. But I don't know, I just find nature is a great way to sort of inspiration for a lot of our designs.
Definitely, absolutely. And in my mind, I think about holding a stone, like a skipping stone or a pebble from the beach, that really, that feeling just really sits with me. But speaking of nature, Renee, you really captured the human nature element of, fidgeting with your phone and being able to take the back off and be able to replace that easily. I know that we can with our overmolds of our protective shells that we do have for our cell phones, but the fact that you made it a piece of the cell phone, can you talk a little bit more about that? So I know that you pictured 3 different versions, but did you have any more in mind besides what you were able to create? Or share with, rather?
Well, I was gonna do a poly panel version, which was another thing on my mini factory by Devin. So I was gonna do that, which I'd made fidget modules for and the different phone case for. So I was gonna try and incorporate that, but I kind of just ran out of time. And I was gonna do one with a kickstand, but then the shell phone and all sorts of things, and one with a ring so you can hold it, and different fidgety ones, and maybe a photo one, and all sorts of different things. But my design skills aren't that great, so
it's hard. It's hard to make everything that our mind's eye sees into that 3D modeling. That really challenges me a lot, and it frustrates me a lot. But yeah, I keep working at it. I've talked to other people who have done Fusion 360 or, gone through the learning curve of Fusion 360. And I know Sophie Wong, she's a popular maker here. She talks about she had to forget about making what she wanted in her brain, but she made some household object every day for 30 days. to really increase her skill level. But what have all of you done to be able to increase your skill level? Because you've moved along. Renee, I know you're really modest about your level so far, but the fact that you were able to come into a competition like this and really create something that was usable was really impressive. The other thing I wanted to mention, both Patrick and Renee, you both had elements. So for example, Renee, you had the way that it screwed in, and Patrick, you had the hinge. for example, on our previous project, we had our previous cell phone, we had a hinge. It was the weakest component. And there's so much IP around hinges. So bravo to you both for like figuring that out. And Wesley, I haven't even started on the fact that you had the little pad on the back of the edge of the phone so that it could lean, because we had circular models before we received our LCD display with the foot at the bottom that we have to build around. We just assumed we would be able to get the round LCD eventually because we had been seeing some coverage of that. But in the mock-ups that we had, they always rolled off the shelf. So the fact that you actually put that in there. And the second thing with our first smartphone, it was completely circular with the lid that flipped up, but people didn't know where the edge of the lid was. And they were always asking for like a thumb place to put their thumb or some indicator of, because when it was closed, you weren't quite sure where the hinge was. And so that was interesting that even though you made the Cyrcle phone Pearl a complete oval, that you did have that little touch point on the edge. That was really cool.
Yeah,
So,
when I was researching your guys' vision of the Cyrcle phone, I mean, one of the things that you guys kept highlighting was the double ear jack. It's what makes the Cyrcle phone one of the features that makes it unique, and creates a unique experience. So if I didn't create some kind of solution to make it not roll off, I would lose that experience. And I thought that was just something. It was one of the top 3 requirements that I had to solve for the Pearl, was how do you keep the clean, pure shape at the same time allow the end user be able to enjoy it with a friend using the 2 headphone jacks. So yeah, it was a solution that I could come up with. I'm sure there's other ways, but yeah.
So one of the pieces of feedback so we've talked to over 1,000 people about their cell phone usage. And one thing that millennials in particular expressed a sense of sadness that everybody was so face down in their phones that they're not connecting with the people that are sitting right next to them. And while I was working on the headphone jack, I'm like, let's just try 2 and see how that goes over at CES, you know.
It's only 20 cents a module. I don't know.
I was just like, let's see, you know, if that'll work. And yeah, so yeah, I tested it before CES. But unfortunately, once we got to CES, it was so loud there. So, you know, I really need to work on that. That piece of it to make sure that it's seamless for the end user.
Cool.
So just a quick curiosity question, because I believe Renee and Pat, I think all of you said you have done other design contests or, you know, just kind of tested out. Is there anything that just like outside of this phone that you designed that and you learned anything from to carry into this, or just generally it was interesting for you as a designer, as a 3D drafter? Because that's something that I have not done much of, the drafting, etc. So just a general anything like that. And if it's no, that's fine.
I'm just trying to think for myself. Sorry, you go first.
Well, for me, pretty much every design competition I enter I push myself to do something that I haven't done before. So with the previous one that I entered, I was using lofts and offset planes, which was new for me. And
can you explain for folks who don't know, what is a loft? Like, what type of feature is that? I don't know.
So
it's really valuable.
So a loft like joins 2 planes faces together and creates like a solid feature between them.
Cool. Yeah.
I was like,
Um,
I don't even know how to explain that without like a visual to go with that. That was bravo, Renee. That was awesome.
um, and for like other competitions, going back to the golden ratio, I actually made a phone stand using the golden ratio for another competition,
Oh, cool.
which is like some by my mini factory. And there was one that I did a water drop. So I was using the revolve feature in Fusion 360 and the spline tool and that kind of thing, all sorts of different tools and yeah, that I like to use. And for one of my designs, I used hinges. So I've been like working around like using hinges and stuff. So for this one, it was all about like the screw, like and the thread tools and stuff.
I love it. That's
That's
yeah.
amazing, Renee. Hinges are so hard for me. They're really, really hard to make them resilient. So I had some more questions here. So I thought it was so awesome, Wes, that and I really didn't understand when I saw the image of it. So I was so glad that you explained it today. That the divot in the back you could put a sticker on. So that was one thing that we've really been challenged with. Like, where do we put like the we'll have to put the FCC code on, and where do we put our logo, and what does that even look like? Like, our logo doesn't even look like, the circle, like the word circle phone or anything like that. Like, what do we do there? That's been an enigma for us. So the fact that you even made a place for that was spectacular.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier, but without that recessed circle, it would have just been like a bar of soap, and I could imagine you holding it, and it'll just pop out of your hand, and you'll have to buy another circle phone. Maybe
Right.
that's not a bad thing for you guys. But so I had to create some way to add some extra surface so it's a little bit easier to hold. And then
Mhm,
also I did mention the wobble issue. I mean,
mhm,
if it was just a nice pure or clean dome surface on the back, then
mhm,
I've done a lot of like remote controls for the company I work for, and that's one of the
mhm.
issues that we try to avoid is the wobble issue, because it just looks kind of unresolved when you set up a device down on the table and it just continues to wobble. So
Okay.
and then it was just an after effect it was just after a result that when I created that feature, that it's like, oh, you could also put a sticker or the branding or even a pop socket, a nice
Mhm,
surface area for the pop socket. So it just solved it, that little detail solved a lot of, or opened a lot of solutions, for a lot of use case scenarios.
That's really, really cool. Our competitor, I don't know if you've heard of them, Monum, they make the Runcible. And they've gone back and forth, having it have cellular connectivity or not. So you can call it a tablet or a smart device, or, whatever you want. And now with the advent of, more and more cellular carriers are actually going voice over IP, so VoIP or voice over IP. So, they could probably still bring out their product. They ran an Indiegogo campaign just before our last Kickstarter campaign, but then never delivered. Unfortunately, it's a beautiful device. It has a bamboo back and it's round like a pebble, and completely circular. So I'm sad that even though they're our competitor, like, I'm sad that it didn't come out. But once you mentioned the wobble, they have the camera, just one camera. It's on the back, and it's in the middle. So I think that's a little flat edge. So they kind of get
Mm.
around the wobble that way. But one thing, like when you're holding your phone, you have this big area here. The flatter or the thinner the phones are getting, the more it's like you're holding a plate of glass, and it's actually becoming a little less comfortable. And so to actually have a little bit of that curve on the bottom, or kind of bulk on the back side, really fits better in the hand, like a remote control. But you're right, getting around the wobble. I had no idea how to do that.
There's
So.
an interesting insight. Patrick and Renee and myself, we've been glued onto the monitor designing this enclosure. But it's a good thing that the competition encouraged us to 3D print our designs, because
Oh,
you learn a lot when you 3D print, because we're zoomed in looking at the design so often. The scale and the proportions is it's kind of, you don't really get a sense of it until you print it out. And then one thing I realized with the circular phone, or the Circle phone, is it's very difficult to text, and I thought to myself,
one-handed.
one-handed,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, is that a bad thing? And because somebody asked that same question, like, oh, Wes, maybe you should do a slide out keyboard feature. And then
Right.
I defended my design, and I said, you know what, maybe it's not a bad thing that you can't type with one hand, because it discourages texting while you're driving, which is a bad habit in the US. I don't know in other countries, but it's a bad habit that people are texting while they're driving because they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's a good thing for the Circle phone. It discourages texting while you're driving. But one thing that's really nice about a circular form factor is it really feels good when you're typing with two hands.
Yes.
Because when you're typing with a rectangular form, you're kind of it's kind of squished kind of experience. But now I kind of distance my hands a little bit more and have a little bit more distance for my thumbs to kind of do their thing. So this is the benefits of prototyping and designing in two dimension, virtual and physical. You do a back and forth dance, and then you tweak the design based on what you learn and you experience on these, on both ends.
It's so true. And Patrick and Renee, is there a lot of texting while driving in Australia?
Not from me.
Yeah.
Like, not me personally, but
Not for myself, but we have like cameras now that are set up that actually look at your car from a top-down angle, and they can see if you're on your phone or not.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's amazing.
It's been a bit of an issue, but they've had to sort of attack that issue to make sure.
Yeah.
Plus, with us, most people are right-handed, and we drive on the right-hand side of the car. I don't know if that's different in America, I think. So we would have to use our left hand, which is harder if we're not left-handed.
Oh, interesting.
I can't remember, in Australia, are there more manuals or automatics?
I'm not sure. Depends on if you wanted to do like out in the outback or what terrain you wanted to be on.
Okay.
I drive an automatic because
same.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier that way.
Yeah, it's easier. And I know cars for a while in America. So, for example, I had a Audi Q7, and they had a connection for the iPhone 4 where you would tuck your phone away, so it was gone, but it would play through Bluetooth or through the connection on the screen. But that prevented you from, texting, of course, while driving, because it was tucked away in that slot. But then more people, after that particular model came out, more people wanted to use it for driving directions. And so having your phone out on your, somewhere visible so that you could use it for driving directions, that was another thing. Back to the texting. So when I started in 2014, we all had slim, tiny phones, and it was easy to do it with one hand. And so we were concerned when we first started developing the Cyrcle phone, because it was so small that you couldn't do it with one, you couldn't reach around to the keyboard with one thumb. And we did play with some curved keyboards and things like that to try and make it easier. But then all these really large phones came out, And nowadays people message with both all fingers or at least two thumbs when they type very fast, when they send messages quickly.
Mhm.
So I find that on the Cyrcle phone, it's so much faster because the keyboard's so big and
Mhm.
the screen's wider, and it's just, you don't mistype as many times as I do on a rectangular phone. And so, yeah, I just like it.
Cool.
Mhm.
Renee,
Yeah.
I think your screen is frozen, but
Oh,
yeah,
there we are.
fantastic.
You gotta love those tech things, especially in, new social distance. Well, it depends on, of course, what country you're in, but you gotta love all of the tech. It's been a lot of fun.
I have one last question. If you could change one thing on your design, like with a magic wand today, this minute, what's one thing that you would change about your design?
Sneaky question there.
I guess with mine, it's something that I've actually been thinking about with mine, was with the kickstand and the pop-out like holder.
Yes.
I was thinking because the pop-out, the kickstand prints in place like as part of the backing, and the pop-out holder sort of, you'd have to like adhere to it or sort of attach your own way.
Right.
Having those to be able to snap fit would allow customizability for the phone, and I think that would be pretty cool.
So like screw
so
it
you can-
in or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like even if they just click in and you pop them out from the
Oh.
inside or anything like that sort of thing, like because you can have different colors, you can have different designs, and I think that would be kind of cool to have customizability of the phone itself.
Mhm.
For me, it would probably be sort of, I don't know, maybe have a go at changing the interior, or like making it a different shape, or making it like the pearl. And just making it more sleek and like, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing instead of like this, but like, yeah.
I don't know. Your mock-ups look pretty sleek to me, so it was good. It did not indicate your beginner's level, so you did a nice job on those. Mm-hmm.
For mine, I think like when daily I'm checking out the entrance, just to make sure nobody. I still have well, actually it's kind of funny. I was like, oh, if the exterior design doesn't work, I should really work on the features that hold the components, because I think that was one of the other categories. So I went deep into that one too. I put on my mechanical engineering brain. I'm like, okay, if I miss out on that one, I may have a chance on this
As a
one.
backup.
Yeah, as a backup. But as I check up, going back to checking up the designs daily, I think it's really fun seeing what other people are doing, and then entries like what Patrick did with the shell phone, and there's other ones too. I was like, I look at mine, I'm like, mine is just too safe, and too it's like it's expected, you know. It's like, if this is a competition and there's no money on the line for me, and there's no, like, I don't have to present to upper management,
Yes.
um, it's like I should have just did a little bit outside the box. But I know you guys didn't want a box, so I stayed within the box. So, but it's expected. It's a design that, yeah, it's what you were expecting from a Cyrcle phone.
Right. That
You know.
people feel comfortable with. That's a
Yeah.
really good point. So it was so funny because, like, seeing Patrick's design, for example, like, and other designers have done this too. They put like secret stuff in there. It was like, I don't know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, when they go into the cave and like, oh, look at all these cool things that some architect, in the past, designed out, like all these trick features, and I don't know, it's kind of funny. Like when you see, I'm a big fan of like car designs and things like that. And like cars that have like secret compartments and like when the Prius first came out, it has a secret compartment underneath the right passenger's, no, underneath the console in the middle. They have a secret compartment like in the bottom. And I'm like, that's totally trick. Like, I totally didn't expect that. Yeah, I admire that too. Just having those unexpected features that you just didn't, expect. They're delightful. They
Yeah.
make products delightful. So yeah. And speaking of delightful, I just so happy to tears to like be able to talk to each one of you today. So I really appreciate you taking the time to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you
That's
for
okay.
inviting
Yeah,
us.
thanks for inviting us.
Yeah. At least it wasn't 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's true.
What time
So
is it over there?
Nearly 12 o'clock. So
Oh.
nearly midday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was, I mean, as Christina said, this was such a joy, and to see your designs and hear more about them as we just did. Thank you. Thank you for the time and for the effort and everything. And for everybody watching who tuned in, if you end up having any questions after the fact, as always, you can send a message, put a comment, whatever you like. And like Wes was talking about, you can go into this to the contest and look at what everybody is up to, kind of live action, what's new today, as we kind of head towards the finish line of the 31st. It's getting particularly exciting. So, but the three of you, thank you so much, and we look forward to just continuing general conversation and whatnot, and seeing where everybody goes. So I think we'll sign off. So for those watching, thank you. Stay safe out there, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.